Hey, Ambassador, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing great, Bill. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate it.
Well, it's my pleasure, Bill. And when I look at your formal name, the very famous William Wallis, the great Scot, and how he was commemorated in the movie Braveheart by Mel Gibson. As soon as I saw your name the first time, I was like, yeah,
Yeah. Well,
I'm mostly Scottish too. So
are you really?
yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. I didn't know that all the times I see you out and about, but I don't have my kilt on when I'm in public.
No, but I have a tartan as well. And my my Pennsylvania ancestors actually came to then the colony to escape religious persecution. And 8 generations ago, one of my Pennsylvania ancestors fought in the American Revolution. And then decades later, a century later plus, fought in the Civil War. So great men run in my family,
I love it.
and women have to also be in the fight.
Well, my genealogy goes straight back to William Wallace. So the fight for freedom
Amazing.
is in my blood. And as my show grew over the years, I was looking for ways that I could promote freedom and liberty. And I thought, how can I? Well, what to name my show? And then I said, well, William Wallace is for freedom, but I'm for freedom in America, so William Wallace for America. Um,
Beautiful.
so, and again, that fight for freedom, I think, has to be staying, ever vigilant inside of us, because we take it for granted, and especially with the great country that we have, we take it for granted here in America. So I'm always asking people from different walks of life, different platforms, where do you think that freedom is being lost in America?
Well, Bill, I'm sure that your audience is very savvy about this too, but we can all see that the first thing that comes to my mind is the loss of freedom of speech.
Mhm.
And now we know that the government has illegally, through third parties and social media companies, suppressed our freedom of speech. And the knowledge of it, most especially, became public because of the pandemic,
Yeah,
and
right.
suppression of speech about medical freedom, about vaccines and what was happening, even from the highest medical authorities. And we saw what Anthony Fauci did. I believe he belongs in jail for what he did. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah,
Uh, but there are so many abuses of freedom of speech, freedom of religion. We saw during the pandemic, they closed the churches. Never again.
never.
Never again do we allow that to happen. But we also have, this administration is going to come for the guns. I know that
Right.
we're not thinking about it right now, but they will. I made a couple of notes, other things that I believe they're attacking besides medical freedom, freedom of speech, and freedom of assembly with the churches, but also political speech. We saw that President Trump is being indicted over and over again. And in the case of the J6 indictment, it's political speech. It's especially protected if you're running for office. You can
Right.
basically say anything, and you can't hold him to one standard and others to another standard. And that gets me to another issue, and that is equal justice under the law. I think that is being tested by this rogue DOJ and the illiberal Biden administration, the corruption there, and then parents' rights. That is freedom to be able to raise your children how you see best. And you can see the schools are trying to trans children. Governments are now trying to impose that. California Assembly just passed a bill saying that if you have oral or anal sex with a minor and it's consensual, that it's not going to be as serious a crime. So we can see our freedom being eroded by, I would call them Marxists and leftists, who they're not playing by the same rules
Right.
as conservatives have played. And we better grow a pair, and we
That's
better
right.
fight like we care about this country. I think we have never been in more threat from inside and outside. If you look at what's happening outside too, with the wars that have been enabled by the radical
Right.
administration, and then you see the open border and the other various things happening. I believe that this is as serious as our founding. It's that we are under that much stress. And there's many reasons for it, but we've let go of every pillar of influence in our country, whether it's media, even sports, you could say, education, government. It has all been taken control by the Marxists. And so how do you wrest that control? when we are not the powerful, we are the people. Well, there are a lot more of us than there are of them. So I think we'll find solutions.
You brought up an excellent point that two things that made me think, that made me really think, and I want to give you credit for that, which is one, when you talk about the freedoms that they're trying to take away, but
Yeah.
you also talk about the freedoms that they're trying to expand. The freedoms that they're trying to expand are either anti-American, they're either anti-America, or they're anti-human. I mean, to give sexual predators, more rights. They're trying to take away rights of law-abiding citizens while they're trying to give more rights to people that are actually breaking not only laws of America but laws of humanity. They're breaking God's laws.
Yes.
Like you said, the leftists are trying to give them more expanded rights, taking our rights away. The other thing that you brought up and you expanded upon, which I appreciate, is and I talked about this a little bit earlier in my another interview earlier, which is the suppression of the First Amendment right or the Second Amendment right isn't just taking away our speech or our religious abilities or our Second Amendment rights. It's also taking away that fire in your belly. It's also it makes you feel guilty for thinking certain ways, for wanting certain things, or even believing in certain things. It makes you feel guilty about things that are okay, let alone not being able to talk about it.
I totally agree with you. And the one word that really is resonating still in my mind that you just said is anti-human. And when you talk about anti-human, I think we also have to talk about the climate change hoax and how this is a whole of global government effort to lock people in the area that they live in, to change how crops are produced, take the farms from the little farmers. It's already happening in Europe, and you can see how they don't want us to have the benefits of fossil fuels, which have contributed to human
Right.
flourishing and why we live such a beautiful, comfortable life today.
It's absolutely right. They want to talk about the climate change as being man-made, and I always say it's just cyclical. I mean, I'm in Louisiana. My dashboard read 104 degrees today,
Oh my
but I'm
God.
screaming global warming, and they talk about the rise of tides. But what they don't show you is tectonic plate shifting around the world is causing sea levels to lower in some places and rise in others, and that has nothing to do with being man-made, along with just being cyclical. So I certainly appreciate that. Well, when you were ambassador overseas, did you find other countries looking to us for and saying, hey, look, you all got to stop this? Or do you see their laws changing in a way that made you worry about what might be coming to the United States?
Well, so what they were doing, their laws made me worry about what was coming here. They were further along in the implementation, and we can see it happen like in the Netherlands. The farmers have risen up because they're trying to take farms like private property. In the West, that's sacrosanct, and how our society is arranged, right? Through family, private property ownership. Well, they're trying to break everything, taking those farms and then telling different countries are being told you have to cull the cattle. 30% of your cattle have to be killed and things like that. They want people to eat worms. These are not only anti-human, I would call that evil. I mean,
It is.
tell sophisticated people that are living on planet Earth, you have to grow and eat bugs. That's just plain evil. And we have to call it what it is. These people have a diabolical agenda. Call it out for what it is. But in Europe, when I was ambassador, Denmark is very, very pro climate change because it's sort of how they do business. They're big on renewables and things like that. But they have a tiny population and a tiny country in Denmark. It's like New Jersey with 5.5 million people. They can do that. We're a big nation with, we have many, many different climates, and we're very diverse as a country. That doesn't work here. We still do manufacturing here.
Right.
But two things I did with my team, working with my team, we blocked the Russian gas pipeline, Nord Stream 2. Working with the White House, the only place it was never completed was my area of responsibility. And how we did that was we worked to stop it from being completed the whole time I was there. And so that was a win for the United States and for freedom. And I kept working with our allies saying, why are you importing Russian gas? We've got gas,
Right, we have it here.
nuclear, right? And so that was one win. Was we know Joe Biden okayed it, but during the Trump administration, I was able to block it working with his White House. And then secondly, is I was able, working with my team again in the White House, to block Chinese-made 5G in all of Denmark. And we were the first country in Europe, the first foreign minister to come out and say, we're not going to use that. And so we were able to counter Russia and China from Denmark, create jobs here at home. We increased our US exports to Denmark while I was there by over 43%. So we created jobs at home, and that was one of my goals. But Denmark and Europe are, they're further along with the warfare through banks and other means, lawsuits as well against energy companies. And you can see it here as well. They're having a hard time getting funding for projects. And then you have the lawyers suing to stop projects like refineries,
Right.
new nuclear power plants.
I'm gonna go backwards for 1 second before I ask you the next question, which is, you said something exactly what I've been saying about it's gonna be evil.
Yeah.
I don't know, like when I look at how South Africa, they've taken away farmland from homeowners over there, and they're still doing it, and nobody talks about it. You're making us eat worms and bugs and think all that's normal, and taking away property and taking away the ability to grow our own food. I often wonder, and sometimes I have this conversation with people, and they say, oh, that's going to be this one world government, or that's going to be this dictator, whoever that decided. I said, I don't know that there's any one person or group of people that I can actually think up all of these nefarious plans, as much as it is just a sense of evil. And I just think that there is that evil is being used as a tool and an instrument to be able to control mankind, for the ability for people who want to control us and take us over. That's just a simple way to say it. You
Right.
know, but what other things is America First policy working on?
Well, I'm proud to be vice chair for energy and the environment at America First Policy Institute. And all of your viewers and followers can go to their website. We have 22 policy centers, and it covers everything that any of your viewers could care about, from, faith and family to, opportunity for working people, security. We have wonderful people from the Trump administration and prior Republican administrations who are experts in their fields. I'm working on energy to bring back American energy independence and dominance. That's what we want. We want to bring it back. And it's so they can go to AFPI's website. I'm also going to be the president of the newly formed America First Policy Institute Pennsylvania chapter.
Oh, love it.
They're starting chapters all across the country. They have 19 that they're targeting. And then I'm just starting up something called Fix Pennsylvania. And it is a system to register conservative voters so that we increase, just like they did in Florida under Governor Rick Scott and Ron DeSantis, registered conservative voters. And that's how they flipped that state from swing state to red.
I love this. And now, how can people get involved with that besides going to AmericanFirstPolicy.com? You mentioned the other organizations. Is there a website where they can go and find out how to get involved?
Yes, the fixpennsylvania.org. We have a WinRed portal, and I will be putting up online ways to give to Fix Pennsylvania if people care about that swing state. There are 4 swing states that we really want to help and make sure that we win, so that we stop the march of the takeover of our country by the leftists. But there are other things that your viewers can do. They can go to precinctstrategy.com and register to be a precinct committee man and volunteer in that way and fill that slot. We have a lot of Republican openings. They can volunteer to be a poll watcher or a poll worker, or volunteer in their area to legally chase ballots. Every state is different, but every state has a playbook. And there are so many other things. That they can run for school board, even if they don't have a child in the school, or row offices. There is no office that isn't important. They're
Well,
all important, Bill.
well, and to your point, a lot of people think in terms of voting. They go, "Oh, it's something that's going to vote somebody out or keep somebody in." And I always say, voting is bigger than that. Voting is a sense of investment into your community. Voting is something that when you do it, you're investing. You feel like when you put your dollars into an investment, you feel like you're responsible. When you vote, you feel another sense of responsibility to your government and your community in a way that you get more involved. And when you get more involved and you get other people to get more involved, it's that sense of responsibility that expands. And that's what keeps elections safe and secure, not on a local level, but on a national level. I love what you're doing in Pennsylvania because that's one of the states, that had problems, right?
Do you have a dog? Do you have a dog?
I have a dog, my co-host, in the studio.
Sweet.
He has
So,
been quiet the whole time.
what a good boy. So, just to your point about voting, believe it or not, hundreds of elections across our country every year are decided by one vote. So, really, one vote does count. And I'm encouraging every one of your viewers to sign up and get a mail-in ballot. Whatever is legal in your state, sign
Right.
up and do it, but bank your vote early. Don't wait for election day. There's going to be so much mischief on election day. We have to beat the Democrats at their own game. So get your ballot in. And then also, if I could just suggest that they call the White House and tell President Biden, or email and tell him, no way, hell no, do we
Right.
want to be in the WHO agreement that the WHO controls our nation and our healthcare in the next pandemic, because we know there will be a next one. And then I'm sure that probably our not so friendly folks over there in the Chinese Communist Party are already brewing up the next one. And then also they can call and they can email their congressman. The number is online and the email as well. There's a general box number for Congress and for Senate, or they can go to their own congressman or senator's email on their website and tell them what they want them to do. Doesn't matter which party they're in. They need to register their opinion and be loud and proud about it, and then talk to their friends. And then if they're inclined, I hope that they'll help people get registered to vote, because they can go to churches or gun shows and register people to vote. That is the most important thing, is that we increase our reach. And we know that the faithful and people that love our Second Amendment, many of them are either not registered or they're just not bothering to show up. And you can tell them, if you care about your religious freedom and you care about your Second Amendment, you owe it to yourself and your children and grandchildren to get registered and then show up and then chase that person's ballot if you'd like, or elected people that are running for office can do that.
I love again. I love the election approach. I love the voting approach, and I love how you expanded on that about getting involved and registering people. I don't know if you know Brylan Hollyland. He was on earlier today, and that was one of the things that he had talked about is how he's 17 years old, and on
Wow.
all of his friends' birthday, he says, "Happy birthday! Go register to vote."
I
and
love it.
and I always tell people on the show too, I'm like, have a voting party. Like literally go and say, look, hey guys, we're gonna go vote and have lunch, or we're all gonna go vote and have dinner afterwards. And you do it like that, and you make it a community thing. And then those people that are invested in the community are also doing things like you're talking about, voter outreach, registering more people to vote, going to gun shows. Scott, there's a gun show here. There's a regional gun show that sponsors my radio program, where we get Scott Pressler to go to all their gun shows.
How much do we love Scott Pressler?
Oh yeah,
He's terrific, isn't he?
yeah. I've had him in 3 times in Louisiana, and we had a gun show here about 2 months ago when he came in, registered people to vote. And again, it's about getting people involved.
It is. And the point of this is to preserve our constitutional republic,
That's
to
right.
make sure that we preserve this freedom that we so enjoy for our kids and grandkids and in the future, and that we increase opportunity, because we know that, for instance, under President Trump, we had the best employment
That's
in
right.
our lifetimes for
Right.
women, for Hispanic Americans, African Americans, Asian Americans, that we had manufacturing coming back. And he had, before the pandemic, brought back more than 750,000 manufacturing jobs. We have to make things here. And so it's really important that we close the border. He will do that because he did it. That we stop these foreign wars, stop funding Ukraine. That's Europe's problem, and it's not our responsibility. We make sure no Americans are going over there and dying for this. And that we make sure also that we preserve, like, the freedoms for our kids to go to school and not be groomed, for freedom of speech. So there's so many reasons to fight for 2024 and to elect constitutional conservatives.
And, you know, two more points to bring up that you reminded me again of is one, we can do this on a state level. You know, if more people got involved, everybody thinks that we have to do it on a national level. And so they get intimidated. And I always tell people you can work in your own state legislatures to be able to help fight, to help protect all these things that we've talked about. We can work with our local legislators to do things like protecting children, protecting our elections, and doing those things on a state level. The other thing to bring up that you brought up is how sometimes elections are lost by one or two votes, and a lot of people don't realize how close they are. But I'll tell you, who does realize it are the people who don't agree with us, or they want to tell us how wrong we are. And what I mean by that is, I have people who identify as Republicans, think they're Republicans, or even Democrats. They'll tell me, you know, to talk about that we have problems with our elections is a false narrative. And I said, what do you mean? They said, well, our elections are okay. And I said, how do you think that? They said, well, most elections are lost by less than 1 or 2%. Or I'm sorry, I said it the wrong way. They said they like to say that election fraud only accounts for less than 1 or 2% in our elections. And I said, have you looked lately at how much elections are being won or lost by? Less than 1 or 2%. Right. So it correlates with what they're saying, but they still don't believe that elections are a problem. Elections are a problem.
Right. So they can also get involved in their county level. So counties have a county chair. They can run for county chair, or they can be one of the people on the committee in their county. They can run for their local school board. So you can go as local as you want, even to the precincts. And then when you talk about, you were talking about elections, I just want to give you a brief, a little bit of information. I ran for the Senate in the 2022 cycle. And
I remember.
One thing I learned was when Dr. Oz won the primary on election day, his opponent, John Fetterman, had almost 1 million ballots already banked, where Dr. Mehmet Oz had about 250 votes banked. You can't make that delta up to 750,000. Right. That's why I said people have to register to vote early and get the ballot in, because things are going to happen on election day. Maybe you can't make it. The car doesn't start, that somebody's baby's sick, or work calls in and you get distracted. About 5 or 10% of those people are not going to make it in on election day. Just stuff happens. Right. And so banking those ballots, I would make a goal for Republicans, bank 60%, because the Democrats I think the Republicans banked 40% with governor of Virginia, the new governor of Virginia, Glenn Youngkin. He banked about 40% before the election. So they had a big effort to get those ballots in. And he was successful by about, like you said, 1 or 2%. Right. So we have to bank those votes. We cannot come from behind on election day and in 8 hours do what the Democrats have done in 60 days. There's no 8 hours to 60 days win. It's not possible.
Ambassador, you are amazing. I got to tell you,
you're amazing, Bill.
Well, I enjoy meeting you, not only at sort of the public places that I run into you at, but I've enjoyed following up with you and everything. But to hear you more in person like this, I got to tell you, having more time with you, I look forward to bringing you on again sometime,
Thank you so much.
and doing something with you on we'll just talk about America First policy, update people on what you're working on. I think it's a
Sure.
great to get more people involved.
Bill, my website is carlasands.com. I'm on Twitter, Carla H. Sands. I'm on Instagram and Facebook, Carla Sands. So I hope that your followers can follow me, and let's get this done for 2024, Bill.
We're going to do it, and I'll be in touch with you soon.
Thank you. Take care. God bless.
Thank you very much. Have a great night.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.